We're good to go. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Holy smokes, what a morning. It always goes like that, though.
It does, yeah.
It's
always hectic right before.
Yeah, lots of little things to sort out. But yeah, what a last few days. We were at KublaCon over the weekend and showing off Party Starter to tons of people, and man, the response was good. Sometimes we just sit down at a table and start passing. We weren't even playing role-playing games at the time. We were just theorizing and throwing cards around, saying if we were an adventuring party, this is how we'd connect the party together, and these are some adventures we could go on. It was really cool. It was really great to see people's responses to it. So
yeah, honestly, it is a very fun product to demo and use.
Yeah, it just comes together. It works well. People like it. I mean, what's not to like? I think everybody could use a little bit of inspiration. And the whole collaborative storytelling side of things also, I think, really appeals to a lot of people. Yeah. More and more, there's people are being encouraged to contribute to the story, it seems, and it really helps to help the players to buy into the story more. I think, at least that's what I'm experiencing so far. But to actually use it in the wild, that was really cool. All right, I'm just finishing up a couple things here, and then we can have a look at the campaign page. Although I can't see the stream. Are you looking at the campaign page right now?
So looking at it.
Cool. Cool. We're gonna need to get some more prototypes. Start sending them to people.
Yeah, I even need one.
Yeah, it's so funny. We just made one, to prove the concept, and now we're like, all right, we need more. Start sending them to streamers and have more when we go to conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I think this is good to go. Hopefully. All right, cross that off the list. For those of you who have never run a Kickstarter campaign, or a crowdfunding campaign in general, there are just so many things that you got to do. Make sure that everyone on the newsletter knows about it, everyone in Discord knows about it, which is literally what I'm doing right now, unless you've already done that.
Nope.
Okay.
I did social medias though.
Okay, great. Socials, I'll check those off the list.
Socials.
Thank you.
Done.
All right, let me find Discord. Okay. Discord is now aware.
Nice.
Okay, cool. I think we're good.
Nice. Back to the top of the page.
Yeah. So an interesting use of the Party Starter for a game that I ran over the weekend for Adventures League was there were 3 players at the table who already played with each other, like at home and stuff like that. They were part of a gaming group, and then the other 2 players were also part of a gaming group. That they didn't know each other. So I had 2 people over here and 3 people over here, and so what we did was we all drew cards and just sort of talked about what would be the best connection between these 2 groups. Not so much connection between each party member, because obviously they already knew each other.
Yeah.
These three and these two. So we thought, well, how can we connect these two groups together? And it was really cool. They picked one that worked for everybody. And then I drew a few cards and was inspired by those for how the adventure would go. And they let me set it in a published adventure. It was Adventures League, so they let me set it in a published adventure from WotC, and I know Lost Mine of Phandelver really well, so I created an adventure that was set there, but 10 years after the events of the original adventure, the published adventure. And I haven't gone into the Beyond Phandelver or whatever that one was, but I know the original starter set adventure pretty well, and so it went really smoothly and it was a lot of fun. So, but I used the event cards as a jumping off point for what might happen, and then I used the setting for where it would happen. So yeah, it was cool. It really worked. It's one thing to design a product, it's a totally different thing to actually use it and find that it does work in actual gameplay.
Yep.
And it does what you're trying to do, which is to sit down and make something with it. So yeah, it was very cool to see that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, this product to me is amazing for one shots, because a lot of the time when you're getting started or people just made their characters, you're like, oh, okay, we're here, we need to figure out how you guys are all tied together, instead of just saying like, hey, you're part of an adventuring party, that's why you guys are here. It just gives that extra little like spice and flavor that like I feel like a lot of players latch on to. So they're like, oh, cool, I can use this to draw inspiration for how I'm going to play this character.
The relationship with the other characters in the story can certainly have an influence and help their role play for sure. So yeah, it was a lot of fun just seeing it in action. And I think that people really enjoyed the bond cards, but also really liked the idea of the event cards, so that you had at least some seeds and some ideas that could grow into full-on adventure paths and stuff like that. So
exactly. And like,
it worked good.
As I said, like, one of those things for getting prepped, it helps so much to just figure out, what are we doing today? All right, let's just draw an event card. We'll start there. We'll jump off there. We'll get this started. We'll start working through it.
Yeah, and in some ways too, you're when you're connecting the NPCs to one another, or the NPCs to the party, that can be really helpful too. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you meet someone in a tavern and it turns out, oh, you guys are part of the same guild. Like, I'm just looking at cards that I'm drawing right here. So, guild members is one of the options here. Let's say that I've got a card here, Wilderness Wanderers. So I could draw that as a dungeon master and say, well, actually, that's a cool thing where we can encounter someone on the road potentially. So some of these, like how you met somebody, it could be the sort of the origin story for you guys. And how, what is your relationship to one another, in this case, traveling companions. So, and we've got 4 options on each card, so I could make it work with any story. I've said this before on stream, but for anyone who's new, we really try to balance or find that sweet spot between versatility and detail, so that you've got something that can work with pretty much anything you're doing, but it has enough detail to where you don't have to do a ton of work to make it work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's like the opposite problem where you put in too much detail and you're like, well, okay, there's a bit more than what I need, and now you've created parts of the story that maybe don't really jive with what I already have going on. So that can be also problematic. But when you find that sweet spot where you've got enough detail to where it's functional, and but not too much to where it's still versatile and you can use it anywhere. I think that's the spot where you want to be. So,
oh yeah,
super stoked with that.
Yeah, I feel like we landed there once again with this. Like,
yep. We at KublaCon we were actually in a like a roundtable discussion about dungeon mastery and creative writing and you know, just sort of an all-around you know, workshop, I suppose, for running games. And I introduced myself and I said I've been running games for 25 years, and I was like, whoa, like I just sort of reality check on myself, and I was like, dang, it has been a long time.
Yeah.
And
it is crazy when we start adding it up. It's funny.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, I do actually have quite a bit of experience doing this, because we really have been doing it for so long.
Yeah. It's it's very it's very cool thinking about just all the crazy adventures, but I can't believe it's already been 25 years.
Yeah.
And I think like I'm nowhere near you know, at the level where I know everything, but I feel like I know enough to be able to help people and advise them on how to run their games more smoothly, because I think after 25 years I've failed enough times, you know, or maybe not to have the best game sessions, you know, now and then you don't have an especially great experience, and you look back on it and you go, well, what was it about that experience that maybe could be improved, and how could I improve things? I always create tools for myself. I always create things that'll help me make a better adventure the next time.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, this kind of thing is definitely, it falls into that category. And they always start with that, wouldn't it be nice if we had a tool that solved this problem, kind of a thing. And this one started when I was out to dinner with a friend, and he was starting a new campaign soon, and he said the problem that he's having right now is we funded. There you go.
Hey,
19 minutes.
Hey.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That was quick. But he was saying that the problem he was running into was starting a new campaign with brand new, you know, some people had played before, some people hadn't, but they were all fairly new to one another. And I used to facilitate team building activities, ropes courses, and other kinds of things related to that industry. And the kinds of activities you would do with people who didn't know each other, sort of as an icebreaker, you would do these things to help them to get to know each other. And you'd share information and that kind of stuff. And so this was somewhat inspired by that, but obviously giving it more of the role-playing game twist and understanding that you'd at least know, you know, something about each other, you know, because you're coming together as a party. Whereas in the real world, you know, we don't know each other from Adam. Well, in role-playing games, it's kind of assumed that before the party starts at your session 0, there's something that's going to unite you. Now, the other thing you can do too is your session 0 is these various bonds all coming together, like happening at your session 0.
Yeah.
So if you are, let's say, travel companions, that kind of thing is sort of the one that you get. Well, actually, let me grab a few.
Just use it.
We'll just use it and make it up on the spot. So in this theoretical session 0, I've got survivors of a cataclysm right here. So I could make the cataclysm session 0. So I'm looking at here, and I've got a realm-altering disaster, bonded by the memory of a calamitous event, joined in rebuilding their shattered community. That's an interesting one. Maybe something happened where the village was damaged or burned down or whatever.
Attacked by raiders
Exactly. So session 0 is the aftermath of that, and then there's sort of let's hatch a plan to go and, get our stuff back or whatever, seek revenge, whatever it might be. But this could be the one bond for the whole team if you want to, or you could make this a uniting bond of the whole team, and then you could have something else like childhood friends could be between a couple other of the party members, and then someone else comes in, and there's a couple streetwise survivors in here. So there's nomadic wanderers, shared misfortune, cultural kinship, mystic circle. So lots of different ways to bond each player character together with one another, but then you could use these also as a bond for the entire group. So very cool ways of utilizing these. And then throw on top of that the events deck, and you'll find some other similarities in there, maybe, or other synergies in there, where you can then use that as the quest. Okay, so combine the Cataclysm with, let me just grab a lost, let's see here, Lost Caravan, Wandering Spirit, Treacherous Terrain. Okay, so Cataclysm, let's call it like some sort of earthquake or volcano or something like that. So now we've got also Treacherous Terrain in the events deck that we go over the treacherous terrain to find part of the forest is on fire because of the cataclysm.
Yeah.
So that's making me think more toward volcano. So magma, flowing, it ends up going down through the valley where the village is at. The village is near a river. It's going into the river and cooling off and creating explosions and stuff like that. It could be setting the forest on fire. Let's see, and then through all of your maybe mass exodus out of this valley, you discover ancient ruins. So, I mean, I'm just going through here and finding all kinds of interesting things here that could be a way, and then the hidden oasis. So you can combine those two things together and go, there's ancient ruins in this really nice area that you resettle the whole village to. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Like you present the options and then just let the players roll with it. So you step by step are going along here, but then every card has 4 options. So I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you've got 4 options on each card. So now you can bend it and shape it and make it your own. So let me see if I can see my camera. Where's my camera? Aha, yeah. So each one of these options becomes a variation on the main concept. So yeah, that's another way of using it. Like so many options, and it's really just about inspiration. Inspiring storytelling and helping people to with their creative process. And again, you use it however you want. This could be something that you do on the fly. It could be something that you do during your prep time. You could, before session 0, you could let your players know, okay, so Bear, you and Warren are going to be connected through, this bond. Yep. And you guys can collaborate on what that means to your characters. So again, just more buy-in from the players on the collaborative storytelling side of things.
Yeah, it is one of those interesting things, because I do feel like session 0 or that beginning, we're all starting at a tavern, we're already a adventuring party, is how most people start and things like that. And so you're usually not super connected to each other a lot of the time, unless you and your friends were actually putting each other in your backstories or anything like that. And that's where the bonds card to me just makes everything so much easier. When I'm making my character, I could pull a couple of these, especially if we're all making characters together for session 0, because that's usually how I'll do it. For one shots, we'll all sit down, we'll kind of all make our characters together that day, figure out how we're all connected, and then basically the next session will be the one shot. And so this just makes that process so much faster. I can totally see using this now to get all of that done in one go and run the one shot in the same day, because it's
Yeah.
so much less time of everyone trying to like, oh, I don't know what I want to do or anything like that. And you're like, here, just take one of these. If you don't like it, grab another one. Keep going until you find something you like. There's plenty to choose from. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't have to just lock into any one thing. You could say, I think this is cool, but I'm gonna keep searching and see if there's one that maybe works better with my story.
Yeah, maybe you pass out 3 to each player. You're like, hey, look through these and figure out which one you like the best. Connect to someone else. It's also fun because it really does add to the collaborative storytelling of, oh, now I can start collaborating with my fellow players. Because that's usually another thing I feel like that doesn't happen as much, especially with new players, is you feel like, oh, I just need to collaborate with the DM. Like, that's the only person who kind of I need to worry about here. And so,
yeah, depending on your dungeon master, if they're open to like how much additional story are you going to be allowed to bring into it?
Yeah. And
is it just your connection to another player at the table? Is it going to be more consequential? So let's, I run my games pretty loose, I guess you could say, where I draw inspiration from everyone at the table. And it doesn't mean we always have to take every suggestion. It just means that I'm open to people's, I'm proficient in history. Would it make sense that I would know about such and such and such? And I'm like, that's a great idea. You're actually very familiar with the local lore around this area, and so you would know that this location has X, Y, and Z associated with it.
Yep. Yeah, and then on top of that, as I said, like for me nowadays, I'm usually teaching new players, and we're usually doing one-shots. And so coming up with a new idea every time is kind of daunting. So the event cards helps a lot with that, where I can just grab, as you were doing, one or a smattering of them, and then slowly but surely see this come to life. And I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this event is what's causing us to start. And then that leads into the second event we drew, like going from a cataclysm to all of a sudden we're, I don't know, out trying to defend something. But I was gonna say I would draw cards, but I don't have one right now. So
I'm answering a few comments on the page. Looks like
people are finding like spelling mistakes and stuff. They're like, "How could you?"
No, it has to do with the VIP passes. I mean,
okay.
This is our first time trying secret pledge levels, so I think I did everything correctly. I hope I did everything correctly. This is like a literally brand new thing to us because they weren't a thing the last time we ran a campaign.
Yeah.
So
Kickstarter is always adding new things to it, and every time we launch a campaign, it's trying to figure out how we can integrate those new features. But yeah, definitely if you're someone like me who runs a lot of one shots and is constantly starting, because that's my big thing. I'm like almost always we're starting fresh from somewhere. And so just being able to speed up that process by grabbing a couple cards, handing them out to everybody at the table, it's been so cool. It's been so cool to see.
Yeah.
Like, especially, this last weekend at Kubla, being able to just sit down with people, hand out a couple cards, even if we weren't actually doing a session and everyone just talking about how they were connected to each other, and you're like, yeah, look at that. Like, we're not even about to go in and roleplay, but everyone's so like already figuring out how they want to connect to each other and how they would roleplay this. It's like, it's so cool to see.
Yeah. We got a chance to meet with a lot of people. What's funny is the majority of KublaCon, it seemed to me, was board games, but everyone you talk to, if you say, do you play role-playing games? Every single one of them said yes. So it was like, yeah, we're all like, I play board games, you know, and I play role-playing games, and, you know, I just think of myself as a tabletop gamer. So when we were going around showing people, and whether we were actually running a game or not, you could see the spark within people where they would see the product and they would think about it for a second, like, oh, okay, and then I could do this and I could do that. So it really, and you'd ask, do you play or do you DM, you know, what's your role usually? And it seemed like there was a pretty healthy smattering of a lot of different people, more players than DMs, which is kind of expected, but everybody saw the value in a product like this. And everyone saw that it's not just a session 0 thing as well, it's a every time you meet a new character thing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Also.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have a buddy join the group, you have an NPC in the story somehow, you know, be introduced in the story, and now you've got, you know, if you want to, you can say, oh, this is how we're connected. And it doesn't it's not always a good relationship. I mean, it could be antagonistic potentially.
Yeah.
So that's something to think, and, you know, while you're creating these connections, you know, what is your bond to someone else? It doesn't have to be a good thing.
Yeah.
It could be.
It's true.
You know,
it's very true.
Yeah. So it's not always, you know, hunky dory in the in your fantasy world. It could be something like, yeah, you know, we know each other. Bad blood, you know, it's not good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want you to do that for like party members. You could have a semi-antagonistic relationship with a party member just for like, there's some reason, you know, you're from two different cultures that don't get along, or, you know, there's the classic relationship between Legolas and Gimli, where, you know, in the first book, they don't really trust each other, and there's this long-standing feud between dwarves and elves that can create tension, and tension creates story. So there is that, but you may not want to go too heavily into it, because I have seen parties completely devolve into
I mean, yeah.
chaos because people were stealing stuff from each other, and you had a group of mostly good players, then that one evil player, and yeah, that can become really bad.
Oh yeah. Something that I found that was interesting, especially going out into the wild and showing this off and talking with everybody, is there are a lot of new players that are getting into playing D&D, Pathfinder, other tabletop RPGs, and it's quite daunting when you want to switch from being a player to being a DM. And once again, like, this just feels like one of those products that helps ease that.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out how, like, am I going to DM for a bunch of my buddies, and being able to just kind of ease that entry in is so nice. Like, because we were seeing that a lot. Like, a lot of the panels, a lot of stuff that we were seeing was oriented towards new DMs, because there's just so many people who want to get into the hobby, that want to play, and then get stuck or are afraid, and you just need that little push to be like, no, it's okay, things will be fine. Like,
yeah. We're actually, I talked with the owner of that convention, and I'm going to be talking with more convention owners moving forward. I would like to volunteer my time to talk about dungeon mastery and storytelling and the creative process, just to help people to break into it and feel more confident in their their performance as a dungeon master. I mean, because it is a performance
in it.
So and also players as well. Sometimes people, they feel self-conscious about it, and they're like, well, I don't want to like put myself out there and maybe say something stupid. And I've always told people, like, we're playing a game, you know, it's totally fine. There's no judgment, there's no negative consequences or anything like that, and you can always do over. You can always say, oh, you know what, let's retcon that, I'm gonna say this instead, and that's totally fine. So I think the number one thing is we're here to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
we're on the table to have fun, and anything that I can do personally or we can do as Nord Games to facilitate that, we're gonna pursue that if possible.
Yeah. And I mean, I could see this being a great icebreaker for parties and things like that, especially you're starting out, you're trying to figure out how to talk to, especially if they're not people that you usually play with, like you're at a con or maybe you're at your local game store, and you're trying to like meet these people for the first time, as well as now integrate how I play with other people. This is just an easy, nice way to instantly jump in and be like, oh, well, we just met, but here, let's sit down and try to figure out how we're connected via this card. Which one of these 4 options do either of us like the best? Maybe maybe someone likes one over the other, but they're able to pitch their idea. Like, it's just a good way to start getting the table talking to each other.
Yeah. What's really funny about what you just said, like, we all just met, like, so true. And the majority of the games that I run are at conventions, and sometimes, like with one of the games that I ran over the weekend, you do have people who know each other from before, but then they're connecting with the other people on the other side of the table, you know. So they not necessarily everybody knows each other, and oftentimes I do find that, you know, so-and-so brought their brother or brought a friend or whatever. So there's oftentimes like a sort of a mix of different levels of relationship, you know. And but in those instances where you've got, like, maybe I'll run a game of like 7 people, so it's a lot less likely that everyone knows each other. But in those instances, it's really fun to facilitate that, like, getting to know everybody sort of a thing. And you've got lots of different personalities, lots of different desires in what they want to get out of the game, lots of different play styles, all that stuff, and you have to, as the dungeon master, navigate that, and that can be very, very challenging. And that should probably be a topic of conversation for if we do some sort of a seminar or workshop or whatever.
Oh, definitely.
You know, how to navigate the, you know, different personalities. So
yes, because like, it's one of those things, you never really know until you're all sitting down and you're all starting to play. Especially if you're doing con games or you're doing things where it potentially is a bunch of strangers who don't fully know each other. Like, it can get hard to have someone start talking, start breaking that ice, start figuring out how they're gonna play these characters and things like that. Even for me, like, for the event deck and stuff like that, putting some of those down and letting the players help decide how you guys want to start this, like it's at a session 0, that's a really interesting and fun way of doing it. Like, hey, we have 3 events here. I can use one of these as a jumping off point. Which one interests the party the most? Now that we have you guys all connected and things like that. Because, like, the events deck to me is just that extra little bit of spice, and it just helps speed up and, like, find out, like, what am I doing today? What are we like? Maybe it's not a full-on cataclysm or something crazy. Like, some of the events are a little more fun, or a little more like less we're all gonna die epic adventure, and more of like mundane side questy stuff, and that's fun.
There was one in the Kickstarter video that Warren pulled. Let's see if I can find it here. It was Festival of Lights. Local celebration bursts into life with magical illuminations, communal joy, and hidden mysteries. So that one is very interesting because and he
what are our 4 options?
A celebration or a trap.
Yeah.
And it's like, it totally could be a trap. I mean, like, get your guard down and then boom. You guys are in some sort of adventure. Who knows? But that's the beauty of it. Role-playing games are a whole different level when it comes to gaming. You know, we break out Monopoly, and we kind of know what's going to happen each time. Someone's going to get Park Place and then dominate the rest of the game, and, you know, it might not be very different than the last time that we played. Whereas role-playing games can go in literally any direction every single time.
Yeah, it's true.
Which I think is one of the biggest appeals.
I think so
them.
too. I also think it's one of the, as like a DM, it is one of the scariest things. Like the fact that your players can do potentially anything can get a little like, okay, where do we go with this? And I mean, being able to roll and like improv and come up with stuff on the fly is a talent of DMs. It is one thing you do have to get used to doing. And I think one of my always takeaways when I'm talking to people who want to DM or who are new DMs is don't be afraid to. It's not failing. It's more like, don't be afraid to try something, right? Like in your head, you're like, okay, let's see if this will work. And you send your party into a forest, and next thing you know, they don't like the forest that they're in. And you're like, okay, that's totally fine. Let's move them on to the next thing. Like, it just, it's not that it failed. It's just, your party just wasn't as interested in doing that type of stuff. And that's something as a DM, you just get really used to handling. That's why, not to come back to the party starter, the events thing is a lot of fun. You're like, oh no, they're going off rails, or they're not going where I want them to go. Let's make a quick event here. I'm just going to go through these, found one that I like. Okay, you guys are now at a festival of lights. Let's see if they like this better. And then maybe you're right. Maybe that festival of lights turns into where the big bad showed up. You're like, I needed him to show up this session, and you know what? This is actually a place that I can fold him in.
Here's one, ritual sacrifice, and this could just, you are in the forest and you hear these sounds, guttural sounds and maybe chants or drums beating or whatever, and you're like, all right, let's go investigate that. What is it? Oh,
no,
ritual sacrifice. Sorry,
my bad, our
bad. This one I especially liked is Stranded. Unexpected circumstances leave the party isolated in a hostile or remote environment. So that's really cool. And then the options are become marooned on an uncharted island, found themselves isolated in an expansive desert, stranded in a snowbound mountain pass after a blizzard, left isolated following a treacherous sea voyage. So this is the kind of card where I would start to plan and go, okay, I'm gonna put them in this situation. So I'm gonna give them options on like, how do you want to travel to the next city or whatever?
Sure.
You're on your way somewhere, and they go, oh, we want to go over the mountain, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I've got this, like a blizzard could happen, and then like you lose track of the path. So that could be a way to incorporate that kind of idea in there. It doesn't have to be something where it is currently happening. It could the event could be something that is it's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it could have already also happened. Like, it could be one of those things.
Yeah, it could have happened in the past.
Yeah. But
so,
I do agree, it's not something you need to use
because of it
right away. Like,
yeah,
the Stranded one's funny too. Going back to, you can do anything. You're like, oh, how am I going to use the Stranded card? It's like portal opened up underneath your players and dropped them on a desert island. Now it's just like, wait a second, how did that even happen? You're like, dude, magic.
Magic's a thing.
Maybe there's a sorcerer who's been following you guys. It's just like, oh, like, I need to send you guys here because that's where you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. There's a question in the chat. Does actual D&D happen here? If you're still watching, we're showing off a D&D tool. This can also be used for Pathfinder or GURPS or pretty much any fantasy-themed role-playing game you happen to be playing. As well as if you're just a creative writer, too.
True.
If you just want ideas for how to connect different characters together, you can use it for that. We actually have a lot of creative writers who use our products, like the Oracle story generator, character generator, monster generator, exclusively for creating those jumping off points for their stories.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the events deck being used as like a kind of a beats or something like for your story. You're trying to figure out, I'm at writer's block, I don't know what to do. Start like thumbing through them and being like, oh, you know what, this inspires me to go in a direction I didn't see before. Because that's the nice thing about a lot of like I mean, Party Starter is system neutral, so you can use this with anything. Like any sort of tabletop role-playing. Doesn't necessarily have to be fantasy. I know a lot of other stuff is oriented towards fantasy, but it is easy enough to bend and change to sci-fi or horror or kind of wherever you guys are.
Answer some comments here.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things where just being able to help the creative process, either as the DM or the players with this, is so nice. Like, because at the end of the day, we're here to tell the story. We're here to interact with each other and play a game, and anything that makes that process easier and less of a feels like a task or something. Because sometimes we've probably all been there. If you're a GM, you're getting ready for your next session, and you're like, I just don't have the energy right now to plan anything before Tuesday, and now it's Monday, and I'm like, oh god, like what are we even gonna do? And just products like this make it so nice to get over that and put something out on the table for all our players to play. And a lot of the time too, it's always like they're like, oh, I love this is so cool, and you're like, oh man, I came into this with nothing before we started this. I put the DM screen up, I grabbed some cards. I'm glad you guys had fun, because I was over here trying to figure it out.
Literally making it up as you go along. Yeah, and
I'm
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think there's anything. I'm very known for doing that. Like I remember, one of my friends recently was like, "Hey, can I see your like DM notes like for sessions and things so I can?" And I showed it to him, and it's like literally just like the name of a NPC that they ran into or the name of the town, so I could remember that next time. But it's like everything else that you would think that it would be taking notes for is just like, no, it's just those couple things, because that's all I really need. It'll be fine.
It's so funny too. Like it reminds me of Kyle Kinane, the comedian, where his notebook is basically like, "You got this, buddy." You know, like he doesn't write down a lot, and so he just kind of makes stuff up as he's going along. Talks about his life a lot. Yeah. But like us as Dungeon Masters, we have different styles, and like everything's fine, you know, it's all good any way you want to run your games and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, as long as everyone's having fun and we're all just there to roll dice and laugh, then I tend to think mission accomplished. And if maybe people can take some inspiration from the games that I run, and when they run their own games, go, oh, that was a really cool thing when Chris, did that or that, maybe a certain tool that I used, or a certain method that I used for determining something, they really jived with. And I do the same thing whenever I'm playing in someone's game. I often will watch how they go about determining, what was the outcome of this. Oftentimes I just connect encounters to the player's luck, if you will, or fate. And when it comes time to determine if we've got an encounter coming up, I'll just have everyone roll d20. Low is bad. So, we get 5 opportunities for an encounter basically, and everyone rolls above a 15, let's say, and I'm like, all right, cool. Or 10, 50-50 chance or something like that. So they all roll 10 or above, and I'm like, all right, cool. Smooth sailing. You guys are able to make it through the forest without any encounters of monsters. You see lots of flora and fauna and stuff like that, but you don't encounter any monsters or any bandits or whatever. Great. Or it goes bad and they roll lower than 10 or really low, and then I'm like, all right, here we go. We've got some sort of monster encounter that might be the kind you have to run away from. So just however you use the tools at your disposal, and you got to think of all the different tools. Like the dice are a tool, your mind is a tool, your players can be a resource for you to draw upon, and you can actually ask them questions like, they've got proficiency in a certain thing, survival, let's say, and you go, what do you know about, and then fill in the blank. What do you know about mushrooms or trees or, you know, whatever else it may be that might pertain to that specific skill? And that could be inspiration for jumping off and telling more about the story and what they encounter and you know, what they see on their adventure. That can be very helpful. I very rarely tell players what they know. I oftentimes let them tell me what they know and then build off of that.
Yeah. And
so
I always think that's the best way of doing it, because to me, your players usually know more about their character or more about what they want their character to know than you do. So it's one of the, like, oh, hey, do you know how to do this thing? Or, yeah, as you said, like, maybe it's survivability. You're like, okay, well, you guys are stranded. What do you know about trying to now survive in the wilderness now that you guys are stranded in the woods? You guys lost your path.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they actually have some real life experience that they start bringing up, and you as the DM's never been lost in a forest, but maybe the dude who's playing it is a trekker. Maybe he goes on camping missions and stuff like that and has studied how to do that type of stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, you clearly know more than I do. So let's see how you survive. Let's see how you go.
Yeah, their actual real world, the player, not the character, but the player's real world experience is often sometimes something we can leverage.
Yeah.
And they can bring insight into it. And in some cases, players, they will inform you of what experience that they want to have by the characters that they make. So if a player has made a fighter, for example, that probably means that they want to fight.
Yeah.
And they, you know, want to hack stuff with their sword or whatever. Whether that, well, how much of that is coming from their real life personality, you know, is ultimately up to them.
Yeah.
But in some cases, you can find that they picked things that they are familiar with. And they go, oh, yeah, nature. I know a lot about nature personally, so I think my character, if they know a lot about nature, that'd be cool. And I could, you know, I could be knowledgeable about that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, built-in knowledge. So, and you'd be surprised how often people will bring something, you know, some real life stuff into it. Because, I mean, the reality is all of our fantasy adventures are based somewhat in real life. Like, there's gravity, there's a sun that provides, you know, light and stuff like that. Torches make light. Very rarely have I ever played in a campaign where everything is just completely weird, topsy-turvy and wild. And wild. It's there's some things that are rooted in our reality. And so when you are playing with people and they help you to tell the story through their own real world experiences and stuff like that and wisdom, that can be really cool because they bring in a certain amount of knowledge, and then it allows them to flex that, which is cool, but it's also maybe educating other people around the table. And if it plays into their character, and their character is the kind of person who would explain things to people and go, well, actually, you know, the history of this place is such and such and such, that can allow that player to shine in that instance, which is really cool. Yeah. So I like to facilitate that whenever possible.
I mean, that's what it's all about, giving players agency to shine, giving them that opportunity to, at the table, step up and be the one who can do something, which is going back to, when people make their characters, especially new players and things like that, they gravitate towards what they want to do. Like, they made a fighter because they want to be up front, swinging swords, throwing dice. Yeah. Maybe they're probably playing a wizard because they want to cast cool spells and be in the back line and do stuff like that. Like, usually you can see what players want to do, and agreed, like what proficiencies or whatever they're trying to select for those, you know what, maybe you give the guy who's a brewmaster, all of a sudden you guys have to brew something, you guys have to do this, and they have to lean on the dwarf guy who like hasn't so far had his time to shine, but now has this fun cool little way of stepping up. But
you also have people that in real life they sail, let's say, and they can provide a certain amount of wisdom when you guys get onto a ship and you're headed, somewhere else on the other side of the horizon. That could be really cool because they can go, all right, batten down the hatches, and then, hoist the mainsail and stuff. And everyone else at the table is like, what's the mainsail?
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's like, and then, like you said, that gives that player at the table that opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best. I often at my game sessions, I will try also to highlight somebody. So when it happens, obviously, like, whoa, cool, everyone give a round of applause. But at the end of the game, I try. My notebook usually has to do with, okay, Janet, her character did this at that one spot. She scored the critical on the charisma check when it mattered the most. And then Caleb, he was able to figure out the puzzle or whatever. So these are the kinds of things that I usually note down while playing, and then at the end of the game session, remind everybody about those times when a particular character and player really shined and contributed a lot to the adventure. I think that's super cool. And I really try to enable that too. So let's say that somebody at the table, they haven't gotten any critical hits, no critical successes.
Sure.
They haven't really contributed anything, to anything yet. I'll often try, at least by the end of the session, to facilitate something that they can hold their head up and go like, oh, that was really cool that I was able to do that. And I think it's especially important with younger people too, because sometimes they'll be like, oh man, I can't roll anything good tonight. I've missed every single hit, all that kind of stuff.
True.
But then you do something where you check out the character sheet real quick and you go, hey, you're proficient in this. Give me a check on that. So every opportunity you have, because you can only roll bad for so long, hopefully.
I mean, sure.
Hopefully you get a good roll. Real. And then all of a sudden they get a 20. Oh, great, awesome. We did a thing. So I think that's something that I always try to instill in people and all that. And, anytime that you can really make someone feel good about something that they did at the table, I'm always for it, if possible. I'm one of those dungeon masters where I'm a yes and person, but you can't have everything, but if it's reasonable, obviously.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I've played with dungeon masters where the answer to every question is no, and that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So I try to be reasonably facilitating. I won't let you just, did we discover +3 weapon back there? I'm like, no. You're level 2, it's not happening.
Yeah. But maybe you did find the sword of singing, which sings every time you swing. So it's not powerful, but it is cool. Yeah. It's strange.
Yeah, it's cool. Give it a mundane effect that doesn't make you godly, but definitely aids you in your adventure.
Yeah, I love mundane effects, weirdly enough, because sometimes your players will get really crafty with them and stuff. Like, oh yeah, this is a set of armor that never gets dirty, and for some reason they figure out a way to leverage that. That's a really cool effect. That has nothing to do with the stats. Yeah, it can certainly affect the story. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's some really fun mundane items that you can make. One of my favorites was there was a pipe that you could blow any sort of shape with the smoke. So
cool.
You could seem super mundane and stuff like that, but you could use that to your advantage when doing something. Mm-hmm. Maybe you blow a giant smoke dragon into someone and they freak out, even though it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to do anything. But
but it's still something unique. I often run my games too where magic is not commonplace, and if villagers encounter anything magical, it could go really bad. They could think there's something evil about you. Yeah, totally. So that's another thing too, is do you provide the players with magical items that perhaps will make commoners freak out or
Sure.
not trust them or something like take it.
There's a lot
take
of
it and run with
directions
it,
to go,
basically.
for sure.
But yeah, it's got a lot of role-playing games in general, just tons of opportunity, and I'm, again, I always want to facilitate the adventure and provide the players with what they're looking for in the adventure. Don't just give it to them, but provide the opportunity for those things to happen. So yeah, and I hope that people appreciate the I hope everyone appreciates the tools that we've created so that they can make their games everything that they want them to be. Yeah. Obviously, there's plenty of people out there who would never need any of our products, and that's totally fine. I've met some incredibly talented people who just impress me every single time that I'm able to play with them, and they don't need any inspiration whatsoever from our products, but maybe they draw inspiration from somewhere else. I don't know where they're getting it. Maybe they made a pact with a fiend or something like that.
Sure.
But there's an awful lot of us who definitely need and appreciate inspiration, and that's really what all of our products are about, and this one especially. So but this one, unlike a lot of our products, this one focuses on those very close interpersonal relationships between player characters, NPCs, and basically any character that you might have in your adventure. What, honey? Camera's on, yeah. Live stream's almost over.
Yeah, I was gonna say we are at that point, so we can wind down.
Here, I'll turn my camera off.
But no, we can wind down because
Okay.
I need to hop over to the second stream that I have today.
Yeah. Yep. No worries. All right, so it's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock.
So yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look at our progress so far.
187 backers. Thank you, everybody. It's crazy.
Fantastic.
It's always awesome to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
This is going to run for the next 3 weeks. It ends on June 19th at 9 p.m. We have early bird pledges available for the next 72 hours. So that is...
Grab them while they're hot. No.
Yeah, what is that, Friday?
Friday.
At 9. So Friday at 9 a.m. is when the early bird bonus material ends. It's basically a free expansion pack. We're doing 5 expansion packs for 10 cards each. They're all themed differently, so take a look at the main page if you want more information on those. Let's see, if you were a VIP pass holder and an early bird backer, you get 2 expansion packs of your choice. And then in the pledge manager, you'll be able to specify, but during the campaign, you'll be able to add whatever you want. So let's say that you add 3 of the 5 packs now, and during the pledge manager you select the other 2. You could do that, totally fine. We do have all-in pledges where you just basically get everything, so it's a good option. And then if you are a VIP pass holder, we sent out an email through our website with secret links. I mean, they're calling them secret links on Kickstarter. They're basically, you can't see them if you're looking at the website normally. Like if you're looking at the campaign page normally, you can only see them if you use the link that was sent to you by our website. Yeah, exactly. If you don't get in on the early bird time frame, you will get another email about the VIP passes that you'll get the same basic pledge, but without the early bird bonus of the additional free expansion pack.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's about everything. Thanks again, everybody. This is awesome. We're going to leave this live stream at the top of the page. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to throw those in the comments section of the campaign. You can also message us directly if you've got a question that is more sensitive. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. And until our next live stream, happy gaming. Barry, you have anything to say?
No, just take care, everybody. Have fun, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.